And we are live, up internet, and welcome back to Black Sofa and to this series called Introducing ... and where I introduce up and coming new YouTubers. And this time I'm introducing the brilliant, frustrated atheist.
Hello.
Hi. And this is a bit awkward because this series is supposed to be for YouTubers with less than 100 subs. But when I first invited you, you did have less than 100 subs, but now you've surpassed that. Um,
Yes, and I'm seem to be catching up to you.
yes, exactly. I'm sure you'll surpass even me. Um, uh, I'm sure you will. Quite shortly. So congratulations on reaching that first milestone.
Why, thank you.
So
Yeah, it was a very interesting one because towards the end here everybody started really shouting me out, including on in certain other streams and whatnot. And it was quite interesting to watch to see how many people just started shouting me out when they realized I was so close.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of great people in this community, isn't there?
Oh yeah, a lot of great people.
Definitely. So why don't you introduce yourself and talk a bit about your channel?
Okay, well, I'm frustrated atheist, and I have a YouTube channel, obviously, and I'm from Texas. Um, one not the hottest state, but one of the hotter states. I'm 28, and as my name suggests, I'm a young Earth creationist. But my channel, I do a lot of debunking of Christian nonsense,
Okay.
where I take a look at the different claims and bring actual facts into it. I've done other things other than Christians, like I did a video about spirit science when they did one about fasting, and I plan on doing more because I've seen a lot of other of their videos, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead and tackle this. um, I also have a series that I'm in the middle of doing that's called Creationist Problems with the Fossil Record, where I take a look into the different creationist claims,
Yeah.
creationist problems that they have with the fossil record, and it's both the hoaxes and the actual fossils, um, and just pretty much bring the history of it and bring the actual facts of it, and just let people see for themselves what they think about it.
Yeah.
Um,
I would find that really fascinating. Because
you would?
I no, well, I would, I would do. I mean, um, I'd I'd have to start watching, that series because when I was a young Earth creationist myself, I used to love, you know, Kent Hovind and Ken Ham, and later on Eric Hovind, and of course Banana Man.
Of course.
And they would always ban on about the fossil record, and how there's gaps in the fossil record, and how that disproves the evolution theory, and I found that argument quite compelling at first. But then
Of
I
course.
I started thinking, hang on a minute, they're talking as if the fossil record is a closed canon, and
Mm,
that that it's finished, that no more fossils are ever going to be found. But I knew that fossils are being found all the time,
of course.
and it's not it's not a field of science that that is over. And I thought, well, what happens when those gaps in the fossil record are filled? And I think that's when I started to move away from New Earth creationism and more towards old Earth creationism. And eventually, I did move away from Christianity altogether.
And we are definitely happy about that.
Yes, yes, definitely. Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
no, so go on.
Oh, I was just saying that one of the biggest things that I always have a problem with is whenever the young Earth creationists, whenever they talk about fossils, they don't even mean the collection of fossils for that particular species or whatever. They just mean the very first one that we found, or the one that's most incomplete. And like for instance, their biggest problem with Lucy is like, oh, you have a handful of bones here, and you can't tell how their arms were or whatever. And it's like, you do realize that we have found more. We have
Yeah,
found more fossils of Australopithecus afarensis, right? We have plenty of them, and they still go off of the one that we've found.
yes,
And it's just like, why are you going off of really in this situation ancient finds when we found way more than that?
yes, and yeah, that's another thing that put me off. They never seemed to engage with recent scientific discoveries. They were,
Mm-hmm.
I, I,
They don't.
I always noticed that their MO was always, they had their favorites, for scientific discoveries from years ago that they would hold on to and say, see, this proves that evolution is wrong. Well, there have been discoveries, many discoveries since then, but why aren't you engaging with those ones? It really put me off.
Yeah, that really is a very off-putting thing. It's like you're not even acting as if these other ones are even in existence.
Yeah, exactly. So what made you decide to start your channel?
Well, I would probably have to say that it was and believe it or not, it has to do with my first video and the creationist problem with the fossil record, where I watched a lot of other YouTubers kind of cover it, like Potler54 and whatnot, and none of them got the full detailed story out. And it just seemed as time goes on, people started just barely mentioning it, and I was like, why aren't they, giving a full detail on it? And then I was just like, it just kind of like something in me just went off, and I was like, well, if I really want to see something I want to see, I might as well put a video out myself. And
Yeah,
so I did, and then I was like, okay, well, why just stop there? Why not go with all the other problems that I have with this? So just kept going with it.
oh, yeah, brilliant. Um, so what? Hang on, I've lost my train of thought here. Why are you so frustrated?
I've actually gotten asked this question a lot. And the answer has always been that the frustration really evolves over time. It started off with just being frustrated at the most idiotic questions, such as, if God doesn't exist, explain a rainbow, or if humans came from monkeys, why they're still monkeys. And as time goes on, it start more things keep adding on to it. Um, and so it just keeps adding on to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet it must get more and more frustrating all the time.
Yes, it does. Especially the more time I spend on YouTube, it gets even more frustrating, and I'm like, oh my god, what is with these people?
Yes. Yeah, I know. I know you. I know exactly what you mean. Um, but what makes you the most frustrated? Would you say?
Oh, for that, I'd say probably right now is probably just the lack of research people actually do when they go to ask questions. Mainly when creationists ask questions that they think are unanswerable, and then when you actually provide an answer, it isn't apparently as good as Oh, God did it.
Yeah.
So that just is really really frustrating because I will sit there and oh well, explain this then, ha ha ha, I got you, and then you're like, oh well, this is actually, done by this certain means, and then once you've given a full detail on it, they're like, that's stupid, that's not at all how that could have happened. God did it, and it's like, if you already had an answer in mind, why even ask the question? If
Yes.
you know I'm not going to give this answer, then why ask me this question? If you didn't want the actual answer.
Exactly. Yeah. Um, yeah. I can. Yeah, that is very frustrating. Um, or, or when they say, "Well, the Bible says so."
Oh God, yes. That just is like, it's like, they'll start talking about something, and it's like, well, how do you know that's at all factual? Oh, because it's in the Bible. Okay, that does not help me at all. I mean, the Bible also says that you can actually get a striped calf by putting a heifer in front of a striped stick. I mean,
Yeah.
so where exactly does that logic come into play then?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Um, the Bible, contrary to the belief of many Christians, does not have all the answers.
No, it doesn't. And the apparently basic questions that we actually want to know, the Bible does a terrible job at answering it. And now that we've learned from science, how things happen, like for instance, the creation of the earth and everything like that, they try to bend over backwards just to make the Bible fit scientifically, and it's like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
You can clearly see that this is not an accurate thing. Now, I do have a little bit of admiration for those who said, well, even the creation story is more allegorical than it is factual, because at least then they know that the science has proven otherwise. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh well, this is just allegorical. This is just saying, okay, yeah, the earth was created or was formed and yada yada yada. It's like, okay, I can go with you on that at least, but it's still wrong.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Um, you seem to always sign off your videos. Remember, stay frustrated. So,
Hmm.
why is it so important to stay frustrated?
Well, it's important to me. It's important to stay frustrated because the frustration can help fuel people in a sense. I mean, you can use it to send your favorite content creators an idea on a topic that you want them to cover so that way you can actually get things done, or you can come out and create a video yourself, and it helps weed out all these bad ideas that keep circulating.
Yeah.
And so it's more or less a call to arms for these bad ideas, so that way we don't brush them aside, but we actively engage them and make sure they get the proper attention they need to be combated.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, stay frustrated.
Yes, stay frustrated.
Uh, And yeah, I think that's a good thing because we need to, like you say, we need to engage with these ridiculous ideas and beliefs, and we need to stay frustrated so that we don't become complacent.
Hmm.
And
Because I mean, if you think about it, that's kind of what happened with, say, like the flat earthers. At first, once we realized, okay, the Earth isn't flat, way back when, then we got to the point where everyone started knowing, okay, the Earth is not flat. It is a global like thing. And then more recently, it started to resurface like again. Now, I'm sure there was always other people all throughout history that believed it was flat, but it didn't get more notoriety until more recently. And I'm sure people were like, these are obviously posed, or they're just messing around with other people. And then the movement started to gain momentum, and we've now gotten to the point where we're like, wait, what? Oh,
yeah.
y'all are actually serious?
Yeah. I mean, I can't believe we're debating whether or not the Earth is a globe in the 21st century.
Yeah, I never thought that we would actually ever have to go through that. And it's funny to see it that we're going through it again, and it's like, wow, history really does repeat itself.
Yeah. Only we're not in the Middle Ages anymore.
We've
you
been
know,
to the moon, but of course that's all faked.
of
That's a
course.
NASA conspiracy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Um,
Mm,
yeah, but it is what it is. Which is why we need to keep doing what we do.
exactly. I gotta say that if it weren't for people like Red's Rhetoric, who's and even Godless Engineer out there, who's really hitting those flat earthers, and saying, "Look, this is it." I would have probably been driven insane with the amount of flat earthers on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah. Me too. Anyway, we- did we? So I understand that you were a Christian before.
Yes, I was actually Southern Baptist.
Okay. So was there a catalyst that caused you to lose your faith, or was it gradual?
It was definitely gradual because there was a lot of little cracks in the faith that caused me to think for a minute, but then I just kind of brushed it off and said, "Oh, well, I can easily explain this away with God." And essentially a God of the gaps in my own faith, if you will.
Yeah,
But there was, a one specific thing that I can remember that did start it all, and that was, you know, the fact that uh, in in the Baptist church that I went to, we had a minister who would preach to the congregation about remaining faithful to your spouses and whatnot. And the entire time, he's doing this, he was actively engaging in an affair with his receptionist. Now, he, of course, resigned from being the pastor of the church and whatnot, but he went on to a different church. But at the time, and I kind of just brushed this aside, like, oh, he's human, and humans are fallible, so I can just be okay with that. But I think the problem was the hypocrisy.
yeah,
It was do as I preach, but not do as I do. And
yeah.
that hypocrisy right there was probably the very first crack in the actual faith itself. And then from there, over a long period of time, it it kept cracking and cracking for me.
Okay. Well, so what were the other cracks? Do you think?
Well, I had one where when I was 11 is when I really started. I saw the Harry Potter books, and well, before even reading them, I saw the trailer for the movie, and I was like, "Oh my god, that looks interesting." And my sister, she said, "You know, it's a book, right?" And at the time, for some reason, I didn't even register the fact that they made movies out of books. So I was like, "They make movies out of books?" And she was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Tell you what, if you read the first book, I'll take you to go see the movie." And I was like, "Okay." so I I got the first book and I started reading it. And it took me a while to get into it, but then about 10 chapters into it, I finally just started kept turning the page after page after page because it was that slow buildup that really bogged me down.
Yeah.
And I'm a kid, so my attention span isn't all that great, and even as an adult, it's not all that great either. But I make myself focus. But I really was getting bored with it, and I stopped for a good couple of days of reading it because I was like, no, let me put it down for a second, and then maybe I'll come back to it. And sure enough, I came back to it and started reading it again, and it just kind of opened my imagination. Really, I could actually before that I wasn't really good at picturing everything in my head so well, but then I started picturing it, and it actually played like a movie in my head as I read along, and it just my imagination just exploded, and I was so happy, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And my I was homeschooled at the time. My aunt homeschooled us, and
Okay.
she was the big reason why we went to the Southern Baptist Church. And so, every we went and did school, and the very first thing we did in the morning was sort of a Bible study type of thing. And I had the Harry Potter book on my desk, and that exact same day, out of the blue, she kind of touched on witchcraft and how anybody who likes witchcraft or is associated with it goes to hell.
Right.
And I kept thinking in my head, I was like, how could something that did so much good for a child's imagination be so evil? And so I was like, what, I can still read the Harry Potter books. It doesn't mean I actually believe witchcraft is real or that we should practice in it or anything like that. So I'll that's fine. I can still be a good Christian and read Harry Potter. And another one was my uncle had told me that there's translation after translation after translation of the Bible, and that these are in different languages, and then over time, because in certain languages you don't have the same words.
Yeah.
Like I think like there's like more words for it than in other languages than like say in English. Like for instance, we have the word love, whereas another language could have like six or seven different versions of love. And so it just, you have to sit there and do all this stuff. And since some of the Bible is a very ancient language, and we have done an amazing job at figuring this language out and translating and whatnot, it's still you don't know if that exact wording is the exact wording that they would have used in their language.
Yeah.
And so it gets to the point where you start questioning, okay, well, is the Bible even accurate? And in which case you dismiss it as a Christian. You're just like that. There's no way that this could possibly not be. But that probably was another one. Um, and there was just so many others that had happened. Hold on one second.
somebody popular. So, while frustrated atheist answers his phone, um, I just want to add to what he was saying about the Bible, being there being so many different translations of the Bible, and the Bible written in different languages. And the thing, I think that for me that was one of something that I struggled with when I was a Christian, because I would read the Bible, and I would always read the footnotes, and the footnotes would often say, "Oh, the Hebrew is uncertain here in this verse." It could also mean X, Y, Z, and in a lot of cases, X, Y, Z changes the whole meaning of the passage, and and so yeah, it makes it makes you think, well, surely, God, if the Bible is God's message to all humankind, for all generations, it should be clear. There should be no difficulty in translating it into different languages and to different generations at all. There shouldn't be it shouldn't be uncertain. So that was a stumbling block for me. Um, but I think when I was a Christian, I just would sweep that under the carpet. Um, but I think it got to the point where I couldn't sweep it under the carpet anymore. And and of course there are other factors that led me away from faith to to skepticism and atheism. Um, so I just wanted to add to that really. Um, oh, Lil M's muffin top. We're pretty confident that modern Bibles are based on roughly what the original text would have been for the New Testament, at least. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, these
Um,
things happen. Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
go
I
ahead.
was just filling in and talking about my stumbling block. Some that I had. With the fact that in some cases the Hebrew is uncertain, and it even says so in the footnotes when you're reading the Bible. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah,
There
sorry, go on.
and he kind of gave an example. My uncle kind of gave an example too. Like for instance, he said that we had a relative that decided that he wanted to make his own translation of the Bible. So what he does is he takes the familiar passage of it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the gates of heaven. Well, he took it to meaning his in his interpretation, because he went a more kind of realistic than the parable itself, and he made it more realistic by saying that back in those days, the when you enter a city, you had uh this this shape, this entryway that was in the shape of the eye of a needle, and a camel with a full pack on its back couldn't get through
Yeah,
easy, and so he took a more realistic approach to it and decided to go that route. And so the fact that you can take, and I'm not even using that as an example because, like I said, that passage alone was meant as a parable. Just saying that that it, an impossible feat is a whole lot easier for a rich man to get through into heaven type of thing.
Yeah,
But the fact that you can translate this and multiple people have different translations of it and different meaning into it is enough to where they can say that their understanding of the text supersedes everyone else's, and if you don't believe their interpretation of the text, then you're going to hell.
yeah,
And it was like, really, how can that be? And and for the longest time I'd stopped going to church, and I really, and it wasn't because of like like the Christians like to say, oh, you're just angry at God. No, it was just because at that point in time I was working a lot, and I was just, and a lot of times I would even be working on Sunday, so I
yeah,
didn't have Sundays off or whatever, and so I just didn't go to church. And when I went and actually joined the army, whenever they asked what my religious preference was, at that time I really didn't see myself as anything, because I didn't see myself as a Christian, because it didn't really seem, everything I did in life didn't really scream Christian to me, and all these other things just didn't make me feel like I belonged to any other religion. So I just said non-religious, and
yeah,
so um, then whenever I got out of the army, it just really just I religion didn't really entice me anymore, especially since there was a lot of different parts of history that I knew could not have been been accounted for in the biblical within the Christian faith and whatnot. For instance, the entire span of Neanderthals and all the other um, before human humans, if you will,
yeah,
and um, so it just got to the point to where one day I was sitting actually with my sister's husband, who was an atheist, and he told me about how he figured out he was an atheist, and he said that it really gave him a peace of mind, because he didn't have to do he didn't feel so burdened down with life after he realized he was an atheist. And I was like, I just kept thinking about it, and I was like, you know what, I I really don't see any truth in this. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm an atheist too.
yeah. Okay, yeah, that's good. Um, so my next question is, what do you hope to achieve with your channel?
Really, to just to spread as much fact and information around as possible. I enjoy when people give me criticism, because it's a way for me to learn new things and to become as accurate as I can be. There's actually somebody in the live chat right now who I talk on a more regular basis. Little Miss Muffin Top, and we've talked several times, and she um, she has taught me a lot about philosophy, because she is I don't remember if she says she was a philosophy major or what, but I believe she has at least a degree in philosophy. And so a lot of the philosophical questions that I tend to get wrong, she she'll send me things like there's one video I did um on morality, and she was like, "Do you mind if I sent you something on this on morality? Would you read it?" I was like, "Sure, why not?" And she's like, "Okay." 6 hours later, early in the morning she sends me an 8-page long document in Google about it. And I didn't get much sleep last night, so I just kind of was reading it and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to do this justice if I keep reading this right now.
Mm.
But she has a lot of insight on the philosophy side, which is something that I am not exactly fluent in. I don't know much about philosophy, um, but she does tend to help me with it when she sends me these things, so that way I can kind of review it and just kind of try to soak it in as much as I can and be able to be a little bit more accurate in a more philosophical way. um, but um, and um, and uh, um, there's other things like I try to be cite as many sources as I can. Sometimes I don't do that, but I try to, so that way I can have enough information to support what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And when I actually do the research, I don't just look at it from my point of view. I look into the research of my side, and depending on what I'm debunking or what I'm doing, I'll look at it from the other side as well, just so that way it's not a biased answering. It's more or less a more just these are the facts of the situation. This is how both sides see it. Take it for as you will. And so I try to be as accurate as I possibly can.
That's good. Um, who, what would you say was your target demographic and your target audience, if you like?
Really, it's just anybody who isn't very fluent on the topics that uh, the topics I discussed. Like I know there's one guy whenever I did Nebraska Man who said that he heard of this claim, but he didn't do much research into it because it wasn't anything that he really cared to have actually done the research for. And so he said that watching the video made it to where he now knows the claim and the actual history behind it and the facts behind it. And so it's really just targeted at anybody who doesn't have at least sufficient knowledge in that particular claim or whatever.
Okay. And who would you say your main YouTube influences are?
Influence as in the people who inspire me type of thing.
Yeah.
And I know this is sound very very um um I can't even think of the word, but very um it's gonna sound fun. It's gonna sound corny, but to be honest, it's a little bit of everyone. I mean, every content creator that I've come across usually has something for me to aspire to be more like. I mean, for instance, Don, aka another freaking atheist, he inspires me to want to be more into the community building of everything.
Yeah.
And then Godless Iowan, he inspires me to be more, you know, to be able to just do whatever I can to help my friends, because there's been several things that he's done that he may not he wouldn't do just to do it. He did it because he was helping his friends, and it's just really important for that. And then you have like Godless Engineer, who reminds everyone to stand up and use your voice. And
Yeah.
then you have people like Logic, who sits there and does so much research into every video he does. He looks at it from everything, and then if he doesn't know something all that well, he will get information from other people. Like he just did a couple of videos recently where they were talking about dark matter and everything, and he didn't know much about it. So he actually asked, like he said in the video, he asked like King Crocodile,
Yeah,
and so he doesn't want to be say anything that might be false, and he even says in a lot of his videos that if I've managed to get anything wrong, make sure you tell me. And he did. He has like citations out the ass for a lot of his videos, and
yeah,
it
it's very thorough.
that's just some that's just something that I really wish that I would be more like, is just to be able, like, oh, here's this entire list of my citations,
Yeah,
and have like a long ass list.
yeah, yeah. I really admire him for that. Actually, I think Logic. He's definitely one of my main influences, and Godless Iowan as well. I'm proud to to call him a friend. Um, he's been a great source of inspiration. Um, because he's very, if I may use a Christian term, he's very pastoral in his approach, and he genuinely cares about people, and he genuinely wants to do all he can to to help others, and I think that's a beautiful really beautiful thing. Any anyway, um, so so let's open up the questions to the to the chat now. If you have any questions for Frustrated Atheist, um, uh, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Sorry, my tablet died. Or well, it didn't die; it overheated.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so I had to switch over to my phone. So
Oh,
sorry about the audio quality of this.
oh, that's okay. So, so we're just
You're right.
we're handing over to the live chat now for if anyone watching has any questions. Little Miss Muffin Top says, "I didn't know you had a twin, Frustrated Atheist."
Oh, yes, yes, of course I do. It's he's actually the exact opposite of me. He's the happy theist. Oh, he disappeared now.
Ah, and Unholy Mole says, "I don't have a question, but I really appreciate and care about you guys." Oh, yeah, we love you too, Unholy Mole.
Yes, gotta love the unholy mole.
Yeah, and I want to ask, is that in your avatar? Is that you?
No, that is not me.
It looks a bit like Nicolas Cage.
uh, yeah, I can see where a little bit of that. Not too much like Nicolas Cage, but I can see a rough resemblance of him.
He's got beautiful blue eyes, anyway. Whoever he is.
Yeah. This is actually one of the very first pictures that pop up when you type in "frustrated" into Google Picture and Google Images.
Oh, right. Okay. Are you allowed to
Yes.
use that?
Do what?
Are you allowed to use that?
Um, I wasn't really sure whenever I decided to use it because I didn't really think that much of me was getting out, but I guess nobody's mentioned it yet, so I think I can.
All right. Well, I don't know, but I think there may be some copyright issues.
I'm not sure. I remember looking at the. I saw the where it came from, and it looks like I don't know. It just didn't seem like it was anything that was major with being like anything that you could get copyright written from. Um, I'd have to research. I'd have to look into it again, but it doesn't seem like it was the last time I can remember. Now my tablet's back on. I'm going to see if I can switch over. So I'm going
Okay.
to mute myself real quick, and I should be talking on my tablet soon.
Okay. So dead air for a minute while we wait for.
Oh, nope. It's not going to let me do that for some reason.
Oh,
Um,
never mind.
yeah,
It is what it is.
right.
Little Miss Muffin Top says, "Feminists, please."
It says
Um,
what?
and then she says that was kind of a weird phrasing. And then she goes on to say, "I was trying to ask, are you a feminist? Please say yes."
Um, well, to be honest, it depends on what you mean by feminist. Do I believe that women should have equal rights to men? Of course. We're all humans. We do need equal rights. Am I with this third wave type of feminism? No, because they say they are about equality, but when you actually get down to the nitty gritty of it all, they really want to get so far ahead that they're actually in superiority to men, and they will not accept anything other than that. But I do believe that women should have equal rights as men do in every situation, and so in that sense, I you could say I am.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I am a feminist in the original definition of of the term, in the sense that I believe that um, men and women, and other genders, if you like, we should all human beings should have equal rights. Um, but I think you're right. With third wave feminism, the pendulum has swung too far the other way.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw one video once. I can't remember her name now, but she was saying that we don't need men. Um, men should be men should become extinct, and we can live without them.
Yeah, it's funny because she just said, "Uh-oh, I'm gonna write you another thing," which means she's gonna write me another like 15 pages on evidently something I got wrong about feminism.
Oh, okay. She's going to write you another essay.
Yes, she's good people. Just it's funny because every time it's like I'm gonna write you a little something. It's like, oh, okay, you're gonna write me a little something. I'm expecting maybe a couple of paragraphs on it, maybe at the max, maybe 2 pages. Nope, she's over here writing me like 500, like an essay as if I'm her professor to review this and be like, you did great work here.
Yeah. So there's something to look forward to.
Yep.
Some light reading.
Yeah, light reading. If you think that Hermione Granger's version of light reading is light.
Yes, exactly. Um, so
Yes, Little Miss Muffin Top. It may have been 3,500 words, but whenever I pulled it up on either my phone or tablet earlier today, it was 8 pages.
oh dear. Yeah, and
Oh lordy.
yeah. So you told me that you were from Texas,
Yep,
and
born and raised.
yeah, interesting fact. I remember being taught in school that you can quite comfortably fit England twice into Texas.
Yes,
So that
you
should
can.
give people an idea of how small England actually is in comparison to, to Texas and to the United States as a whole.
Yes, we are the largest continental state. The other state that beats us, of course, is Alaska. And then, even so, Nacha Witness has pointed out that that you can fit Texas inside of Queensland, Australia.
Yeah.
And
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, oh wow.
Yeah. Australia's massive.
Yeah, it is. And it's really is quite large, and it's and so whenever he even showed the picture of comparative of Texas to Australia, and when it was able to fit inside Queensland, and there was still room in Queensland, I was like, yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
But we are a massive state, and a couple of fun facts about Texas. Um, one, although not advisable, you can still literally um, hang a man for stealing your cattle.
Really?
Yes, it is one of those forgotten about laws because these days most people don't go around rustling cattle, but it
Right.
is still on the books. So if someone ever did try to steal them, I mean, they probably won't succeed because, like most forgotten about laws, it's one of those things where the judge is still going to be like, yeah, no, we can't, we're not going to do that. And so
Yeah.
it's but it's still on the record books as being legal.
Right.
Another one is within means, and well, actually, if you have a license to, you no pet is off limits except for probably the bald eagle.
Okay.
But every other animal you can own legally. Like for instance, if if I found a baby deer and I wanted to keep it, I can. If I wanted a lion, if I had the proper licensing, I can get it.
Okay.
So I mean, it just all depends on what type of license you have for the certain animal. The only ones that you can't own, like I said, are the bald eagle and animals that are on the endangered species list.
Okay.
Everything else is fair game.
A crocodile.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
you can own crocodile,
That's amazing.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, I gotta say though, whose dream is it not to build a moat around their house and fill it with crocodiles?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I'd love to do that.
I know, and I think that I might have a few people who would not want to come onto my property, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yep.
It's Unholy Mole says, I'm a moleist.
I'm a molist. So does that mean that you're all for moles, or I'm gonna assume that is true because it'd be a weird to have a mole who was anti-molist.
Yes. Yes, it would. Anyway, I think we're going to wrap things up.
Alrighty.
It's been great. It's been great talking to you, a frustrated atheist, and thanks. Thanks a lot for coming on my channel and being interviewed.
Why, it was actually an honor to be on your channel. It's nice. It's still a little weird when people want me on to interview me. It's like, oh, okay. Oh, hold on. Oh, there is one question.
Oh,
It
okay.
says when you were a Christian, did you think of yourself as an Arminian or a Calvinist or anything?
Good question.
Um, I'm not sure what those are, so I'm gonna say no. I mean, I've heard the name Calvinist before. But I'm not exactly sure exactly what it is that they believe. And Arminian is really just is one that I've never heard before. So,
Uh,
um,
okay. Well, I
so
think
yeah.
Little Miss Muffin Top may want to correct me if I'm wrong here. Um, but the way I understand it is that it's to do with the once saved, always saved controversy. I think Calvinists believe that you are once saved, or once you're saved, you're always saved. If you know, and or if you cannot lose your salvation, but if you move away from the faith, they will say, well, you were never, were you? They would ask, were you really truly saved in the first place?
Hmm.
Um, um, and it's to do with the elect, God's elected people.
Right.
If you're part of the elect, if you are saved, you become part of the elect, and God is not going to let go of His elected, chosen, set apart people. So Calvinists would say, it's once saved, always saved. Arminians, on the other hand, would say, I think they believe that you can lose your salvation. Um, I can't. I mean, I did do some research into this, but
Oh no.
I can't remember how.
All I know is that whenever I was growing up, um, you did have to be baptized and say a certain prayer in order to become, a Christian, like an actual full-fledged Christian, if you will.
Yeah,
Um, until then, because you're so young, you don't know much of it. You're still, I guess, um, within the Christian faith because you were, because you go to the church and whatnot or whatever. But once you actually get to an age where you can understand what it means to be saved, then you can you either choose to be saved or you don't. And if you choose to be saved, you go through the whole entire, pretty much accept. You do a prayer where you accept Jesus into your heart, type of thing, um, and then the adults, of course, set up a time when you can go be baptized, and once you're baptized, you're saved. And but that doesn't mean that you can't be. And as far as I can tell, it doesn't mean that you can't be unsaved in a way,
mm,
because anytime you do commit a sin, you have to repent for that sin and ask Jesus or God, for to forgive you of said sin. And if you don't, then you're still going to hell. Um, and
right.
if you do, then of course you're still in God's good grace because you repented of your evil, wicked, sinful ways, and you just go on about your business. And so, um, as far as I can remember, that's the way it was. Um, unless the church had some radical change since then, it probably still is the way that particular church that I went to was.
Yeah.
Um, but that's I don't know where exactly that falls under. Maybe a little Miss Muffin Top can tell me what that is, but as far as I know, that's the way it went.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, she says the bigger thing about is about predestination and predeterminism,
mhm.
and I think Calvinists believe in predestination, but Arminians believe in predetermination, and there is a difference. Um,
What is pre? What are those two things? I don't know what those are.
okay, so I think that predestination means that God, predestined who was going to be saved and who wasn't going to be saved.
Okay, so that is what
Yeah,
I thought it was. It's more or less the fact that you don't have free will, in a sense.
yeah, and you but predetermination, um, I think means that you do have free will. God may have predetermined that you were going to be saved, but because he doesn't interfere with free will, you can reject what he predetermined for you, if that makes sense.
Okay, then yeah. According to what she said here, she said that Arminians accept full libertarian free will and reject that God predestines or predetermines anyone to salvation or damnation.
Yeah,
Calvinists reject libertarian free will and accept that God both predestines and predetermines people to everything they do. And then she goes on with other things where Molinists accept libertarian free will and accept predestination, but reject predetermination. And open theists just deny that God has foreknowledge at all.
right.
About libertarian choices, anyway.
Okay.
Um,
And this is a
yeah, so,
discussion that could go on all night.
oh, of course
Um,
it is.
yeah,
And these are the types of conversations that Little Miss Muffin Top likes to engage in, especially with me. Um,
and Wonder Lady is eating a watermelon apparently.
and I would love to be eating watermelon right now as well.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
But to answer Little Miss Muffin Top's question, when it comes to Arminian or Calvinist, the church I grew up in, just going off of the way you've described it here, would be they were a bit more of Arminians than they were Calvinists. They did believe in free will, and they taught that we have free will and that God gave us free will to be able to choose things, and that our choices are what pretty much make us. Uh, our choices determine exactly where we're going, as far as the afterlife goes. So, so just going off of what you said, we would have been Arminian, um, Southern Baptist.
okay, cool.
Yeah,
So, anyway, frustrated atheist, thank you for joining me.
and
And
thank you for having me.
you're welcome. And, if there's anyone watching who is not yet subscribed to Frustrated Atheists, then do subscribe to his channel, and I will be leaving a link to his channel in the description. Um, later, a bit later on after we finish recording. So yes, but the link to his channel will be there. And as always, thanks for watching, and bye for
Stay
now.
frustrated.
So yeah, stay frustrated.